Don't need to test, we're ready to go.
Ready to go.
Everybody on the council ready? Jeff,
Yes.
ready? Call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order on this March 3rd, 2014 at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 p.m. Would you join? We'd like to welcome those of you that did make it out in this weather, and those of you that will watch later. We appreciate you paying attention. Would you join us in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Is there anything to be removed from the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda, but
I'll second it.
Irvin beat me to it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The favor have it. All right, next we have the police department doing an annual report, which we have not had in a number of years. And I will tell you that some of the things in it were welcome news, and a lot of it kind of surprised me. So have at it, Chief.
There we go. Yes, sir. As you said, the most recent one I could find was 2008. So I felt like that the citizens of Kitty Hawk and council need to know what services we're providing in the town. Some departments do it, some don't, but I think it's essential that they know what we're providing the citizens. And this will, after tonight, we will be posting it on our website, on the police department's website, so anyone can view it. And y'all already have this is a summary of what you have been presented before council, the book that you've been presented. And you saw our calls for service, 10,736. A little bit of a decrease from the previous year, but you can see the gradual increase from 2010. The accidents, 192, and a majority of those accidents, several years ago, we looked at where our accidents were occurring. 60% of the accidents are occurring from Ocean Boulevard to the foot of the Wright Memorial Bridge. And during that 3 to 4 month time frame, and most of them are rear end collisions, and upwards of 6 cars at a time. So we put a presence at the intersections when we can, but a lot of it is inattention and cell phone use to most of these accidents. Citations and warnings, we put those together. Those have increased for the last year. Thought we need to make more of a presence. A lot of the warnings that are in there are parkings. We don't have parking tickets in the town of Kitty Hawk. We issue warnings and or tow them, but you can write a state citation. We rarely don't. We usually give them a warning and handwrite on there, next time we'll tow, and it usually works. DWI arrests, tremendous amount, almost up 20 arrests from the previous year. Big problem down here, always has been. Don't really know the increase. Hopefully from my influence of stressing my officers how to keep the roads safe, I would hope that that would be it, and I'm pretty sure that that was it. 61 drug arrests, continually going up, as you can tell from 2010. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. Really can't keep up with it. I checked with the sheriff's department. In the last 2 years, they've made 46 arrests in our town. So you can add that into the mix, and we're looking at 2 a week drug arrests in our town.
2 a week?
Well, it's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
So if you add in there 46, and he said that's on the low end. That was a brief conversation. He had the records clerk look, and that was just through their records. But we could nail that down if I had to, but you're looking at you know, a pretty significant increase. Again, more DWI arrests, you're gonna probably get more drug arrests because they coincide.
Are a lot of them tourists? I mean, a lot of the arrests in the summertime?
I would say about half and half. About half and half. And you'd be surprised at the time of day. It's not unusual for one of my officers to arrest someone at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock in the morning. We recently had a woman, a lady that was arrested in Walmart, Home Depot area that registered over a 40 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a .40. So it's a huge problem. We're addressing it the best we can. Criminal Investigative Division, the cases investigated, the actual ones that we received, the officers, patrol officers went out and received a call and cases that were investigated. You saw the breakdown of the cases that we have, the assaults, the other property crimes are huge, the larcenies. Get into community outreach programs. The business emergency contact list, which we've had for several years, and each officer is assigned a zone when we update this every March. They were to contact every business owner, they're to fill out an emergency contact form, or they have an alarm. If their business is broken into, or we find their business broken into, or it's on fire, we know who to call. And Dare Central has provided a list with that. We're the only agency down here that does that provides that list. Project Child Safe is the locks for handguns, rifles, any type of firearm. We provide those. Those are in the lobby, or an officer can take it to someone's home. The Lifesaver, we currently have one individual that has Alzheimer's. They wear a bracelet. If they drift away from the residence, the alarm will go off and we'll be able to relocate. And we've had that individual cut the bracelet off twice, so we've had to get a different bracelet. And someone that may have autism also. We are able to get the Project Lifesaver equipment through a grant, and we're currently looking at doing something even, better with that, because Kitteaway Hills, we're kind of working together with them on that, but we'd like to have our own service with that. Residence check program, y'all are aware of that. When people leave for vacation, we check their home once a 24-hour period. The Identikit, it's a small kit that you give to a parent that they can put a lock of hair in, their dental records, a picture, and they keep that in a safe place if their child becomes missing. Bicycle registration, we register their bikes, put a sticker on it. Bicycle theft used to be a huge problem down here, but it's not as big of a problem now. We still do collect quite a few bikes, found bikes, but not as much as in the past. Shot with a Cop, that's been one of our programs for a while now, very successful with the fire department. They participate with it. It's a great program. Take the kids into Walmart. Walmart gives us quite a bit of help with that. Does not cost anything to the taxpayers. Everything is donated. We just show up and help. And then the community programs that we provide. All the businesses are provided with shoplifting, fraudulent IDs. The banks, we go to the banks and talk to the banks about safe procedures and bank alarm responses. New programs that I implemented this year with the help of my staff. I reviewed other agencies that are accredited agencies, large agencies, and see how they operate. And one of the things, these are some of the things that I looked at, that I thought that could help the community and help the town and the department. And the first one here is the online accommodation and complaint. People will write things they will not say. And in emails and phone calls on my voicemail and everything. So this was something that they want to commend an officer. There's a fillable form and they email it and it comes straight to me. If they want to file a complaint on a employee, here's a written record of it instead of a voicemail. We really don't like to take complaints about, because it is a serious matter, about our employees over the phone. And we don't get them often, but when we do, I just want to make sure that we're going to follow the proper procedure and a policy is in place for this. Nixle, y'all are aware of that, it's a email or text. We sent one out this evening reminding all the motorists to be safe on the roads in Kitty Hawk, that the roads could be icy. We can use it during storms, we can use it for other things. It's a free service that they provide. The RX Drug Box Program, Channel 20 is currently producing a video for this. Another grant, it was an $800 grant where we received basically a metal mailbox with a handle on it. It's in our police department, and believe it or not, it's pretty successful. A lot of people are putting medicines in there, and it's prescription medicines, as y'all well know, is widely abused. And it's widely abused by family members of people that are on the medicines. It's mainly how they get it. So we've gotten quite a bit of that. And the way that these medicines are destroyed is they are incinerated. They do not want you to flush the medicines down the drain. Peekaboo. Home Depot provides the peephole. We'll come provide it and put it in your door for you. They do sign a waiver before we put it in their door. That was,
Yeah.
I do not want to buy a new door. Okay.
And you put it in the right direction.
Yes, sir. We'll double check that. I'm not sure, some of you may have seen the silver pickup trucks that we have that we acquired from the Law Enforcement Support Services through the federal government, Department of Defense. Law enforcement gets the first option on these vehicles when they come offline. We were able to get 3 F-350s and 3 5-tons, one of which is on loan to the fire department, and the other 2 are ours. During the last storm that we had that really washed the village away, we did not have the vehicles to get in there to get people out of their homes, and this time we do. And that's huge. We were able to obtain 1 vehicle, 1 automobile, which we're using for to and from training. It's a smaller, compact car, and other town employees and town departments can use that also. All of those 7 vehicles cost the town tax and tags, and road. That was it. These F-350s were lifesavers during the last storm that we had. We would not have been able to get around except for in 1 vehicle, and that would have been 1 truck that we had that is now at the Public Works. Big difference. With those trucks, we use them for the marathon to set up cones. We can use them during storms, pull the radar trailer, the light trailer, the cone trailer, and they're used weekly, both of them. So. We needed a storage building. We needed something to store all our cones, and we'd been working out of a building that was 4 feet high and 6 feet wide for our car supplies and keep the vehicles washing supplies and cones and so forth. So several lumber yards here in Kitty Hawk, 2 of them in particular, donated the materials, and a company out of Elizabeth City donated the siding, and several employees built it. We did obtain the correct permits from the town. Great add-on. We have an air compressor in there for the car, tires, and so forth. Weapons grant replacement. We replaced our handguns and shotguns last year from a government grant at no cost to the taxpayers. A video surveillance grant at no cost to the taxpayers, which is mandated by the state of North Carolina. Anytime you interview someone for a particular crime, it has to be audio and video, mainly sex crimes. The GSHP, Governor Highway Safety Program, Law Enforcement Liaison Grant. Sergeant Strickland is the law enforcement liaison for this region, and we receive a $20,000 grant a year for that, which helps us buy vehicle equipment and traffic safety equipment. Very fortunate to get that. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
The only question I got is those 5 tons, if they become a real big maintenance headache, can we give them back?
Yes. You can, and that's, One of the things, and Willie in the fire department now, weekly we start them to make sure they're running because they're diesel and they can be a pain.
That's right.
The ones that we got rid of recently, that we put on Gov Deals were just a total pain, but they have to be regularly run. But yes, at any time, we can take them back, or we can submit a letter to place those vehicles on Gov Deals, and we can be done with them. But we definitely do not, and we can take it back and get another one
Okay.
at any time.
And those vehicles in particular, we can get back in Kitty Hawk Landing, places like that
Yes,
during
sir.
an Irene
Yes, sir.
or during a Sandy over between the highways. Whereas if people don't realize it, there is a boat, the fire department has a boat, but A, it's small, and B, there's a lot of trash.
Yes, sir.
And these can navigate that. So really kudos to your department for getting all this stuff, especially with no matching grant or anything. We really need that, and we certainly need it the way you got it. So thank you, and thank your
Yes, sir.
officers.
Thank you.
Joe, I got a question.
sir.
The F-350, is that a four-wheel drive?
Yes, sir. There's three of them. Two of them are silver, and one of them is a different color that we're using as an undercover truck.
Okay,
And they're four-wheel drive and they are diesel.
yeah, fantastic. And the other, the guns that you replaced,
Yes, sir.
are they resold?
Well, they have a trade-in program. We trade our old guns in, we get new. Our old guns were 17 years old, which about 8 to 9 years is usually serviceability on
Right.
on the firearm. Our shotguns were about 14 years old.
So we get credit for them?
Yes, we got credit. That's how we were able to, if you did the math, it wouldn't have, you went out and bought 21 Glock 21 handguns, there's no way you could afford it, so you have to do the trade-in,
Right.
the swap, and we did it through a place called Craig's Firearms, which Nag said just completed one in Southern Shores. And last year was unique with the grants, as there was no match. And of course, this year is a 25% match, so we got lucky. So we didn't have to pay, so we would have had to pay $5,000 last year. We got lucky, we didn't have to pay anything.
Listen, we appreciate all you do.
Yeah,
Sure.
I just have a comment. I thought that the report was really well done, and I just congratulate you on all of the initiatives that you
Thank you.
seem to be
Sure.
pursuing.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chief, great report. A lot of hard work put into it. As far as your traffic enforcement, I've got a little background there. It's a proven fact to reduce crashes, you increase visibility, you increase in traffic enforcement. You have done that, and I commend you and have your officers keep up the good work.
Thank you. And I do want to say that the crashes do help. I mean, and the citations and the warnings do help increase the visibility because criminals will stay away. And then I'm a firm believer in that. And hopefully, it seems to be working, we just got to keep it up. And I have a good group.
I'd also like to thank you for the good job you're doing. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next we have public comment. Lynn, anybody signed up?
No, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak at public comment? Not very many folks here. Let the record show no one came forward. Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second.
Jeff wins.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, let's get over here to, we didn't remove anything, leave it there. Public hearings. We have a text amendment. We have two items. Let's take them one at a time. We have a text amendment for extraterritorial area. Do I hear a motion to go in public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now in public hearing on the first item. Joe, do you want to give us just a very brief, if you will, what this is?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Perry, members of council, and members of the public in attendance.
We have a first item for public hearing is a text amendment to amend Article 5, Division 2, which is part of our extraterritorial zoning district, our Sound Waters District. And the council may recall at your meeting on January the 6th, the council considered and did grant approval for a text amendment related to the length of piers going out into the Sound and Kitty Hawk Bay. And during that discussion, it came up that there were some other items in that district, some other statements that didn't seem to make a lot of sense, and the council had asked staff to go back and work with the planning board on a proposal to eliminate those statements. And that is what this is all about. So it eliminates a couple statements that refer back to commercial recreational activities, and a note that there was a list of such activities that were allowed. And so it's just getting rid of those statements that don't need to be in the ordinance. I can certainly go into more detail, but it's just cleaning up the ordinance as far as that goes. The planning board did review this at their meeting on January the 16th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the text amendments you have before you.
Anyone have a question of Joe before I ask if there's any public? Is anyone wish to speak to this portion of the public hearing on this text amendment? Anyone signed up? Let the record show no one came forward. Do I hear a motion to go back in regular session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, do I hear a motion on this particular item?
Mayor, I make a motion, I move to adopt the proposed text amendment to Article 5, Division 2 of the Town Code, which eliminates statements regarding a list of commercial recreational uses in the Sound Waters ETJ zoning district. Town Council finds this amendment to be consistent with the town's adapted CAMA land use plan and in the public interest by clarifying the standards of the Town Code.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, the next item is a text amendment that deals with some standards for the Board of Adjustment. Do I hear a motion to go in public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Joe, give us a quick rundown on this, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Perry. Go into just a dab more detail on this one, but what the council is reviewing tonight is a proposed text amendment to update the standards in sections 42-72, 42-73, and 42-99 of the town code that deal with the Board of Adjustment, appeals, and conditional use permits. Council members may be sitting up there thinking, well, didn't we do this back in the fall? And you did do a substantial amount of what needed to be done back in the fall. At the time, the state legislature had adopted some changes to the state statutes regarding boards of adjustment and the different procedures they deal with. At the time, based on the information we had available, staff, in cooperation with the town attorney, prepared some proposed amendments. We did actually have 2 pending variances at the time, so it was important for us to make the changes we were aware of. The council did move forward and adopt those changes on October the 7th, 2013. Subsequently, in particular, David Owens with the UNC School of Government has put together some written materials as well as holding a session that many of our Board of Adjustment members had the opportunity to attend down here on the Outer Banks. And during that, Mr. Owens explained some of the other changes, and it turns out that some of the necessary changes are a little bit broader than what you might think upon reading the act. You know, for just as a quick example, The act is titled, "An Act to Clarify and Modernize Statutes Regarding Zoning Boards of Adjustment." Well, what that doesn't say is that it also effectively does the same thing for town councils who are hearing conditional use permits, because that is a quasi-judicial procedure. So, with that in mind, we worked with the town of Kill Devil Hills, was very generous in sharing, the changes that they had made. Town attorney, Mr. Michael, also involved in preparing this. And so basically what we have before you tonight is just some other items that need to be updated in order for our ordinances to comply, be consistent with those state statutes. So there are some changes to the Board of Adjustment. It does not get rid, all the changes that were previously made are fine. There are a couple little minor tweaks to a word here or there that we included in this, but otherwise, that's the intent of this. And I did want to just point out a couple things that do affect the council, as I mentioned, regarding conditional use permits. And those are the last two things in the ordinance, the draft ordinance. And I just wanted you to be aware of some of these things that are going to apply to you in your decision-making for a conditional use permit. And they're under that subsection 7 and subsection 9. In particular, the way that decisions are made and the way that we are required to notify people after the fact, and things are going to change from what we've done in the past based on the new standards. Certainly be glad to cover anything in more detail, but that summarizes that. And I did want to let you know the planning board, again at their meeting on January 16th, voted unanimously to recommend these changes to you.
Joe, this written decision that has to be signed by the mayor of all the facts in their application, is that, do the minutes cover that, or are we talking a separate?
It's a separate document.
It'll be a separate document.
So this
We
is-
actually have a draft format that I've done with Joe and that we have for you, and you'll put your facts and conclusions of law and what you decide into that format.
So this is going to be new and done
It's-
every conditional use?
Well, it's not really new, it's just that they have formalized everything now.
Okay.
And so we're going to be a lot more formal about how we do these than we have in the past.
And almost every time, or every time, there will be two separate things, a set of minutes and a decision?
Right, well, the minutes reflect everything that goes on in the council. Your
Right.
decision is going to be fact-specific as to
Okay.
that hearing, that one hearing.
Does,
You like that, don't you?
does that mean that we then have to take that, after we have taken an action on the conditional use in the meeting, do we also have to then read this fact sheet and then vote to approve that also, or?
Well, you will make your findings of fact when you're making your decision. When you make your decision, you will find the facts that you need to make to either grant or deny that conditional use. And just like you have in the past. And usually what happens is you just say, for the facts that are set out in the staff report, or if you disagree with the staff report, the facts that disagree with the staff report that you heard during that hearing. You're the finders of what the facts are, and that's what is going to be in that document. Whatever facts you find and how they fit into those conditions that need to be met in order to either grant or deny conditional use.
So in the discussion phase, when we're actually acting on that conditional use, what you envision is that we will have this format to look at, and then we'll go through and say the facts for this are
That's
such,
correct.
and the facts.
You're going to
And
know,
we'll-
these are the issues, and you can actually look at a document that says, these are the issues we need to decide. And typically, the staff presents you with their view of what facts fit in these, and they'll tell you, we think they meet this condition, we think they meet this one, they don't meet this one, and this is the reason why. And they'll go through those. And then The other side gets a chance to present their evidence as to why they think they meet all these conditions. And then you have to decide which facts are the correct facts.
So we'll have something to go by that will look like the thing that we have to produce, I guess is what I'm getting
You
at.
can have that, that's exactly right. You can have that document, and then but you still have to decide
We have to
what
do,
the facts are.
I get that, but it gives us the format that we need to make sure that the discussion is guided along those lines so that we'll be able to produce it when we're done, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so that means you have to do a lot different.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And also, just to mention while we're discussing it, the typical way we work this with the Board of Adjustment, who's already been doing this now, is that we would produce a draft document following the meeting based on the discussion. And for the Board of Adjustment, we send that to the chair. The chair reviews it to be sure he feels it's consistent. In this case, we would presumably send that to Mayor Perry. He would review it, and if he's comfortable with it, then he would sign it. If he feels there need to be changes, we'll make the changes.
Okay. Actually, thank you that was a good discussion, and I don't think I would have pulled it out had you not brought it to light, so thank you for doing that. Any other council member got a question for Joe? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this part of the public hearing? Let the record show no one came forward. Do I hear a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back in regular session. Do I hear a motion to approve or otherwise on this particular text amendment?
I move to adopt the proposed text amendments to sections 42-72, 42-73, and 42-99 of the Kitty Hawk Town Code, which update the standards for the Board of Adjustment, constructive notice for appeals, and decision-making process for conditional use permits. Town Council finds that the proposed text amendments are consistent with the adopted KAMA land use plan, and finds these amendments to be in the public interest by bringing the town's standards into compliance with recent changes to state law.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Anyone have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. More paperwork. Next, we're into planning. We have a site plan review for a law office on 106 Ascension. Joe, would you step back up and tell us what we need to know?
Thank you, Mayor Perry. Once again, the council may recall this property. Came up during a discussion of a proposed rezoning at the adjoining property at 108 Ascension Drive. The owner of this property at the time, as well as the folks who had it under contract, presented some information to the council that led the council to a decision not to rezone or not to move a zoning line on the adjoining property. At the time, there was discussion of this very project, and so since that date, property has been acquired, and the proposal's moving forward as planned. So with that in mind, what you have before you is a proposal by the law firm Evans and Meads to locate a law office approximately 3,250 square feet in size at 106 Ascension Drive. What I've put up here is the basic site plan. We do have some other documents if we need to refer to those if there are specific questions, but figured this would cover all the basics that I'll be touching on. Property is presently zoned BC1, Beach Commercial. It's almost 2/3 of an acre in size. You can see on the plan, I'll use the little pointer up here. You can see it's sort of L-shaped. It widens out to the rear of the property. But as you can see here, most of the development is occurring in this front part, and the bulk of the rear of the property up there is mostly undeveloped under this proposal, and we'll
we'll talk about why that is in just a minute. But what you have, and again, I'll use the pointer here, you have a property located here in the southeast corner, abutting it that contains Sweet Frog, that faces North Croatan Highway, also zoned commercial. Property with Atlantic Dentistry and some other uses on that located here, again fronting on, in Zone BC1, fronting on Croatan Highway. On the rear of the property, you have a parcel that's used by the Harbor Bay subdivision it's a community property, contains a playground there, so it's sort of a common area for that subdivision. Then adjoining the property, directly to the west, over here is a parcel that is split zoned, BC1. You can see there's a light gray line that runs diagonally. Everything to the east of that is Zone Beach Commercial, BC1. To the west of it is Beach Residential, BR1. And then directly across the street, across Ascension Drive, you have another undeveloped commercial property that's situated very similarly to this property. So that's kind of the setting for it there. So it's an interesting location, sort of right at the entrance to a residential neighborhood. Doesn't have highway frontage, but is zoned commercially. So looking at the property, I will run down for the record all of the different things we reviewed during the site plan review. Again, Zone BC1 as a professional office, this is a permitted use. Therefore, what the planning board and council are doing is simply effectively a technical review, just to ensure that it complies with all the standards. It's not a conditional use. Property is correct, it meets the minimum size requirements. The proposed project, in totality, only covers 31% of the lot, barely more than what would be allowed for a residential use in a BR1 district. But in this commercial district, it could actually cover up to 60%. So they're well below what they would be permitted to do otherwise. So keeping a good bit of that property in open space. We do look at building setbacks, and looking at that, the front is required 15 feet. As you can see with the way it's laid out with the parking lot in front, the building's actually quite a bit back, 98 feet back off the road to the closest corner. From the rear, it requires a 20-foot setback. Again, as you can see, with that much being undeveloped, even at the closest corner, that's 76 feet from the rear of the property. So the areas where it's tightest would be on the sides. Subject property and the area where the building is going is probably at its narrowest point right there. But even with that being the case, the property, the office building is just a little over 10 feet from the western property line, 14 feet from the closest point of the ramp here on the eastern side to the property line in that location. Both of those comply with the minimum 10-foot standard. So they're okay with all of the setbacks. They're looking at accessing the property with a single 20-foot wide drive here at the front of the property. And you can see that drive then extends into the property and it provides access to all of the parking on the property, which segues into the parking requirements. We've outlined in the report how the calculations are broken down, but to summarize, they are required to have 16 parking spaces on site, and they have provided 16 parking spaces. I did want to note that there is only one ADA accessible handicap space required. The applicants have chosen to provide 2 spaces that are both the closest spaces to the ramp here where they would access. Looking at buffers, this was really the key issue, if you'll recall, when we had that rezoning discussion half a year ago on the adjoining property. And so let me just take a minute to kind of explain how that works on this property, is that You can see a dashed line running diagonally through the front of the property, the southwestern corner. That is the only area of this property where there is a buffer requirement, okay? The buffer is a 50-foot buffer from the zoning line, the commercial zoning line. And as you can see on that, again, that sort of very, very light gray line running on the adjoining property, it would extend 50 feet from that, so that is why this line parallels it. So a majority of this property, including the area where the building is, there is no buffer required. But it does extend into this front area. You can see that all of the improvements, the parking and building are located outside of that buffer area. The one thing I did want to point out is that the applicants did take some care in their design. You'll note that there is a row right here of landscaping that the applicants have proposed. After looking at this and looking at how their project would potentially impact the adjoining property, which has been developed with a single-family residence, the applicants did add in this landscaping in order to soften the effect of their building. Even though their building is, really, fairly, I'd say almost a typical residential size, being only 3,250 square feet, they did want to, help with that neighbor here, help just the aesthetics of it and the impact that that building would have being 10 feet from the line by adding in some landscaping, again, just to soften the impact of the building. The applicant does not, you won't see a dumpster site on this, just due to the nature of the business. They're able to accommodate their needs for trash removal through typical roll cart kind of thing. So that's what they're proposing to do. You've got a location back up here next to the building where you can see where they would locate those and screen those canisters there. But they wouldn't need a large dumpster site. Other aspects of the project, such as lighting and signs, would be reviewed by staff individually if and when they decide to enter those. Did want to point out they have proposed a location for the sign up here. That black bar right there at the front of the property is where they're proposing to place the sign. Other aspects of it, such as water service, wastewater, would be reviewed by the appropriate agencies with Dare County Water and Dare County Health Department. Did want to point out that the applicants have obtained their septic permit already, so that is in hand, so we know that there won't be an issue with that as the project moves forward. And finally, as looking at the stormwater management for the property, we did retain Joe Anloff with Anloff Engineering to conduct a review of the project generally, but we really asked him to focus on stormwater management, looking at the calculations and the design of the proposed system so that he feels it will sufficiently accommodate the stormwater being created by the new parking lot and the building. The applicants have broken that up, and they may speak in more detail on this, but you've basically got a pond here in the back on the sort of the northeast side of the east of the building, and then you have another up here by the parking lot. This one accommodates the runoff from parking lot. This accommodates most of the runoff from the building. You have a copy of Mr. Anloff's letter, outlined his final letter, where he has talked about that he feels the applicants have complied with all of the town standards, so he was comfortable with moving it forward. The planning board did review this project at their meeting on February the 13th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the site plan. They did have a list of conditions that they approved that are outlined in total in your staff report. I do want to point out that on February 19th, following that meeting, but before we distribute the packets to the council, the applicants did submit a revised site plan that was in your packets. It's what you've had before you, that addressed several of those conditions, numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5. So what the council is looking at as far as the remaining conditions would be, number one, that the Dare County Water Department approve the proposed water line connection prior to issuance of a building permit. Number two, that an erosion and sediment control permit be issued by the Planning and Inspections Department prior to obtaining a building permit. Number three, an exterior lighting plan must be approved by Planning and Inspections Department prior to issuance of a building permit. Number four, a sign permit must be obtained from the Planning and Inspections Department prior to installation of any new signs. And five, that an as-built survey, building height certification, and flood elevation certificate must be submitted and approved prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So those would be the remaining conditions that are recommended by the planning board. And that's all I have for you this evening.
So, on the recommended motion, all 5 of those are still germane?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because you were saying 1, 2, 4, and 5, and there's 5 of them. Want to make sure we're right
It's 1, 2, 4, and 5, and the ones that are on the
on the other
page
page.
4.
All right, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. All right. I don't have any questions. It looks like a decent building in a nice place with a lot of setbacks. That's my feelings onto it. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
I don't, I think, yeah,
Looks
it
good.
looks like it belongs in a neighborhood. It's great.
Yeah, it does. It's, it
Good
fits
job
well.
on the architecture.
All right, we ready to make a motion on this?
Did we ask?
Mr. Mayor, I move to grant approval of this site plan for development of Evans and Meads Law Office at 106 Ascension Drive, subject to the following conditions. The Dare County Water Department must approve the proposed water line connection prior to the issuance of a building permit. An erosion and sediment control permit must be issued by the Planning Inspection Department prior to obtaining the building permit. An exterior lighting plan must be approved by the Planning and Inspection Department prior to the issuance of a building permit. A sign permit must be obtained from the Planning and Inspection Department prior to the installation of any new sign. An as-built survey, building height certificate, and flood elevation certificate must be submitted and approved prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, certificate of occupancy.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or none? All right, we've got that one out of the way. All right, next, we're calling for a public hearing to a text amendment, and we're dealing with 35-foot minimum height requirements. Do I hear a motion to call for public hearing?
I move to set as public hearing for the town council meeting on April 7th, 2014 regarding the proposed text amendment to add subsection 42-7C to Kitty Hawk Town Code, creating an exemption from the 35-foot maximum height requirement for roof access structures in all beach commercial zoning districts, subject to certain conditions.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Or none? Next, ready for a call for a public hearing on allowing vehicle rentals in BC1, basically. Do you hear a motion on that?
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing for the town council meeting on April 7th, 2014 regarding the proposed text amendment to add subsection 42-250 subsection C, subsection 34, allowing vehicle rentals as a conditionally permitted use in the beach commercial BC1 zoning district.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I got just one question. Didn't we just do this one time before?
Yeah, a different spot, though. I mean, it was a rezoning request. No, it was a conditional use
It
request
was
or
an
something.
ancillary.
Ancillary.
Ancillary, that was it, for that. But this is a different,
Okay.
This is a
Yeah,
zoning
It is
change.
different, it isn't, but we'll get into that
Yeah.
when we deal with it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, moving on. Next item is new business. We have an amendment to the Town Code, section Windgrass Circle Park and multi-use path. John, do you want to start that one?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is an amendment to Chapter 24 Parks and Recreation, Section 24-53, Windgrass Circle Park and Multi-Use Path. We had a complaint not too long ago, and as a result of the complaint, we investigated our present ordinance for Windgrass Circle Park, and we found out that we needed to update our existing ordinance. In 2006, if you all remember, town was issued a consent judgment that indicated that certain signing would be placed at the Windgrass Circle Park that provides public notice of the town ordinance relative to noise, dogs, skateboards, motor vehicles, boats, use of drugs and alcohol, commercial operation, and hours open to the public. After reviewing the existing ordinance, found that they did not contain regulations relative to skateboards and boats. The proposed additions to this ordinance is item number 15, skateboards, and 16, boats. In addition, Mr. Michael suggested that the language under 10, speed limit and parking, be modified so it is clear that vehicles cannot be parked in the park after closing. And based, also I'd like to comment that based on information received from members of the council and our clerk and Mr. Michael, it's been determined that the gates at the Windgrass Circle Park will now be closed in the evening and opened in the morning. Signs have been posted to warn persons the vehicles left in the park at night will not be able to exit the park until the gates are opened in the morning. So we hopefully will conform to that, like I mentioned before, the consent agenda, a consent judgment that was issued back in 2006, and bring this ordinance up to date.
And just so that the new members and the people that might look at this later get some history on it, when Windgrass Circle Park was first envisioned, there was a lawsuit brought against the town that dealt with, I think the problem was Kitty Dunes residents were worried about covenants being breached and some other factors there, noise levels, things of that nature. So the original ordinance was written to satisfy that judgment, and then a second, when the multi-use path was then later envisioned, another lawsuit was initiated because, and that was by the town, to clear up any rights of covenants and other problems that was occurring in order to get the path put in place to join up with the circle, the Windgrass Circle Park. So all of this came about as a judgment. We really don't have any choice but to close that gate and reopen the gate. It does not stop people, however, from walking and jogging and bicycling on the multi-use path up through the park itself. You're still free to do that. There's a way around all of that. You just can't park in it at certain times. We also, one of the complaints also had to do with possible drug dealing going on down there in the middle of the night. We don't want that either. So those two things. And it does talk about launching of motorized boats and our personal watercraft. Now, personal watercraft in the ordinance is talking about a motorized watercraft. You're still allowed to do canoes and kayaks, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to kind of make sure we had that clear for the public's consumption, and especially the reason behind it. I happened to be in the mediation on the second part of that, and that was no fun. We don't want to go back there. If we don't do the judgment, we could go back there. We don't want to do that. So do I hear a motion to adopt this amendment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move the adoption of the amendment on Chapter 24, Park and Recreation, Section 24-53- Windgrass Circle Park and Multi-Use Path. I further authorize the mayor to sign and the town clerk to attest said amendment.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I got to ask this question. Okay. I'm a 10-year-old kid, I'm standing at the top of that hill, and I got my skateboard. I'm going to go down that hill. You know, why are we not allowing a skateboarder to go down that hill and get on the path and go continue where he's going?
You can get on the path.
But you can't ride down the hill.
You can ride down the hill. You just can't use skateboard in the park.
It's all this, it's right there.
Hey, I hear you. I was at the mediation, okay?
So I'm just asking.
We
questions.
lost.
I don't understand. So the mediation said we couldn't have a skateboarder in there.
That was exactly correct.
I'm not going to fuss about that. That's
And
about
I'll
the-
tell you
it's
where-
about the
where
dumbest
that-
thing I ever heard in my whole born days.
Well, no, it's not as dumb as it sounds, because now there was a boardwalk that started about halfway up that park. And it was, I guess it was intended to be an ADA handicap thing, but it really didn't go down. In any case, that boardwalk was there and skateboarders were using it. It was right next door to the house that's adjacent to the park. And, well, you know what a skateboard does on a wooden deck. And that's what was happening. So that's what prompted that. Now, since then, we've gotten rid of that because it was rotten and we really didn't need it. But the judgment's out there, and unless you do something legally, we got to abide by it.
Gotcha.
Now, am I going to go down there and stop that kid? Probably won't. But technically, he can go down the hill, stop, pick his skateboard up, and get on the multi-use path. All right, Chief Johnson, go do your thing.
You go arrest those.
All right, we didn't vote on this, did we? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next item is Albemarle Rural Planning Organization, Transportation Advisory Committee. We have to have an elected official on that, and we have to do that nomination and election every 2 years. We're due. So do I hear a nomination for an elected official on the RPO?
Well, I would like to nominate the elected official who was previously involved with the RPO, and that's the mayor. I would like to volunteer the mayor for this.
Not much difference in a nomination or a volunteer. All right.
I'll second that real quick.
When I first brought this up, I said, we can have some fun, because I'll throw that out there and ask for volunteers. And M said, no, we're not even going to go that far. So we didn't go that far. All
Well,
right,
I volunteered you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't get to do that, do I? All right. Actually, we have a very important RPO, just for your information, if you don't know it, and you haven't been paying attention to the news. The RPO is being tasked by the legislature. The word the paper used was, the RPO must vote for ferry tolls. And I'm not sure exactly how they can tell us that we have to do that. But anyway, on the 10th, there's an RPO meeting, and we'll see how that fleshes out. But I have word that there's so many people expected at the public hearing part of that, they had to choose a bigger site. We'll see how it goes. All right. Next item up is vacant police officer position. And we normally do a lot of this on the consent agenda, but I thought maybe this one needed a little bit of explanation by Chief Johnson, and I'll ask you to do that now, please.
We posted the position once we had a vacant position. An officer left our agency to go back to his hometown to be employed. He was a little homesick. He'd been here for about 7.5 years, and he decided to go back. And we hated to lose him, but we posted that position. The council approved the base rate position, which is what we were looking for, an entry-level officer. We have good luck with entry-level officers where we can train them and mold them the Kitty Hawk way. Well, we didn't find any candidates. So, but we did find, I did have a candidate approach me from an adjoining agency, very well qualified, has a little over 7 years' experience, has a tremendous amount of training, which we wouldn't have to send him to. And furthermore, he is a property owner and resident of Kitty Hawk. His grandparents live in the village, his mother lives in Kittle Hills, and his sister lives in Southern Shores. Cares a lot about the community and is well respected by other law enforcement officers, and have not heard many negative things or any negative things about this officer. And I think he will be a great fit and a tremendous asset to our community.
All right, thank you, Chief. We're going, a couple of steps above, but sounds like from what the chief has given us, we're not really getting out of our salary as far as what we had planned and longevity and those sort of things. So, do I hear a motion to approve this?
I make that motion.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none.
And Mayor, I'd like to add, I also conferred with the town manager and finance officer and Melody to make sure I was within my budget. This does not exceed, we're still below our budgeted salaries for the current budget year 13-14.
Good.
So we're not exceeding that.
Go get him.
Good.
I might ask you, are we getting him back? Because we lost a few to that department. All right, next item up is a approval to purchase a new fire pumper. John, do you want to take this or someone else?
Well, I can, no problem, Mr. Mayor. This is the, I guess, we have been putting money aside, so to speak, in our reserve account for quite some time for the possibility of purchasing a new fire pumper apparatus. And the Charlene, our finance officer, and Lowell had worked together, and they sent out the bids on January 31st for the purpose of procuring a pumper apparatus. We received 3 bids, which were opened on February the 21st, and they ranged from $534,990 from Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks to a high bid from Atlantic Emergency Solutions of $625,886. They then reviewed all the specifications for the apparatus on Monday, February the 24th. And after reviewing the bids and specifications, they found that Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks was the lowest responsible bidder. And so we did conform with the purchasing requirements for North Carolina state statutes. Chief is here. If you have any questions on the bid itself, I'm sure that he could address that for you.
I do have a couple. Chief Lowell, would you step up, please? Chief,
Yes,
you had
sir.
originally bid the thing for both a truck and some equipment.
Yes, sir, we
But-
did.
But we're not going to buy the equipment, we're just going to buy the truck from this company, is that correct?
That is correct. We would like to purchase the equipment ourselves because we feel like we can do a better job and get a better price.
All right. And that was true with all 3 of the
Yes, sir.
prospective bidders. You're going to be buying new equipment, not just shifting stuff off of other trucks?
Some of both. We'll be buying some new equipment and shifting some.
All right, so if you had bought the new equipment that you put out in the spec, would that have all been new instead of shifting some around, or were you going to do that anyway?
Well, we're going to buy all the new equipment in the spec that we had.
Okay.
Yes, sir, and we're still going to be shifting some around.
All right. And then the other thing was, there was a thing you put in here that we had asked for a 304 stainless steel compartmentation, but they bid, this particular company bid 409 stainless. And you said the 304 was a superior product. In what way?
Yes, sir, and it's the makeup. Again, I'm not probably a person to try to explain that, but it has more metallic in it. Supposed to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more corrosion resistance.
That's the main thing.
But what we found is that all the companies are going to use a Line-X type material, regardless of whether it was the 409 or the 4, we're gonna get the same warranty, so we thought that maybe going with a cheaper product, since we had the same warranty and both of them are being coated, should get the same life out of both.
So your concern with stainless steel is more with the, the inhibitors that you put into the pumping water?
No, sir, it's just our salt, it's our environment. The way it was explained to me, and again, I'm gonna explain, aluminum flexes and becomes weaker.
Correct.
Stainless steel flexes and maintains its strength.
Correct.
And so down the road, if we ever needed to change out the cab and chassis, we'd have something to work with. We're buying a cab and chassis, we could take it out, just like the 2001 Salisbury that we talked about.
Okay.
It gives the town at least another option to look at later down the road.
All right. Anyone else have questions?
Chief, I got a question. Are these three companies bid on three different fire trucks
No,
manufacturers?
There are 3 different manufacturers, they bid from our specifications. 2 of the companies on this bid are bidding a truck that they're gonna build the cab and chassis themselves, just cheaper with the Smeal. We're buying another Spartan cab and chassis, which matches 2 of the apparatus that we already have in service. So we're, in a sense, standardizing our fleet.
So the difference in price of the three companies, and I don't mean to be confusing here, but we're not looking at a Cadillac, Ford, because of the price difference with the 3 people.
The truck we're buying is the Cadillac, not in my opinion, that's no, sir, it's not the Cadillac.
Okay.
But I think it is
That's
the
what we need.
lowest, it's the lowest responsible bid, and I think it's the best price for our community, I really do.
We're getting the Ford.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, but, you know,
I have a Ford.
most, I always thought when you put something out for bid, you have the same quality truck and get 3 people to bid on the same identical truck, that way you get the best price.
That's what we did, yes, sir.
That's fine.
Well, basically, you put out specs for what you wanted in a truck,
And they came back with
and
what
they
they
came
had.
back, whether it would be a bigger cab on one truck or a smaller cab or whatever, you want to seat X number of people and pump so much water and hold so much water, and then they bid on however they want to build that. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes,
Okay.
sir.
So it's really not a Ford, Cadillac, or a Mazda. It's a specification.
Right.
Okay.
You know, I don't understand a lot of this, but all I need to hear is that this satisfies the requirement.
This definitely satisfies the requirement. We think we'll get a long life and use out of it. And like I said, I think the community is gonna get value for their dollar that they spend.
Okay.
That's all I need to hear.
Well, at this price, you're not going to get another one anytime soon. You better get a long life out of it. Do I hear a motion to,
Mr. Mayor, before you do your motion, I have just a couple of things I need to clear up with the chief or maybe Charlene. And one of them is, I know we've got this price, and I know we've got to pay for the chassis when they order that, which is $200 and some thousand.
Yes.
When do we pay for the rest of it? It doesn't say in the contract,
On delivery,
on delivery.
yes, sir.
Well,
After they do all their acceptance test, and we accept the truck, we check the truck against our specifications, and against theirs, and they've delivered what they said they were gonna deliver, then we'll okay to spend the rest of the money.
Okay,
And-
so I think that needs to be in here. And the other thing, the warranty, when you look at the Smeal warranty, it keeps talking about that it starts 30 days after the original invoice date, which I don't know how you calculate that or how you determine that, since they can issue an original invoice anytime they want. But Charlene asked them, because I asked her to do it, and they said it starts from delivery, and I think we need to revise the contract to say the warranty starts from delivery to the town.
okay, I want you to make the motion, and one of these council members is going to say, I do, or something similar to that.
And we also have to have the E-Verify affidavit. That's part of the formal bidding statute. Do you have it now? Okay, so we're good with that. And
All right.
and I've read these warranties, and I don't know what they mean. All I know is the stainless steel warranty is only good if it has a hole in it.
Right. And I will add that the pump warranty itself is a 5.5-year warranty.
Yeah.
That's 5 years, 6 months, and that takes into consideration the length of time that they want to build, depending on when that pump warranty starts, so that we get a full 5 years out of it.
These are the warranties that come with the truck. Yeah,
And
bunch of them.
is there anything in the specifications that says how long parts have to be available for these things? And the reason I ask that, when I was stationed in Alaska, I was in a volunteer fire department, and the state was going to buy them a new truck, and that was in that spec. I was surprised that they had to, any company that bid on that had to have available for 20 years parts for that vehicle. We don't go there.
I can't say that that is in this spec, no, sir.
Okay, I'm just curious. I was surprised. I had never seen it before.
Right. With technology and the way things change today, I don't know that we could get them to put it in there without paying
Yeah,
probably half of what the truck is again.
I'm not trying to change the spec. Steve, would you give us a proposed?
I'll try. I would suggest that the motion be that the council approve the purchase of the new fire pumper from the lowest responsible bidder, Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks / Smeo Fire Apparatus, in the amount of $534,990, and that the contract would include the terms that the warranty would run from the date of delivery, and that the balance of the purchase price would be due on the date of delivery to the town of Kitty Hawk, and also that we do have the E-Verify affidavit already, so they are in compliance with that portion of it.
And who makes that motion?
I approve of the motion as proposed by Attorney Michael.
I'll second it.
And you're not going to repeat all he said?
And no, sir.
All in
Thank y'all.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there are none. All right, tentative schedule for approval of municipal districts. Joe, for the benefit of audience, would you kind of give us a very short rundown of what you're proposing here? And then we'll try to approve it.
Thank you, Mayor Perry. What I've got up here on the screen is, it's actually a copy of the memo that was distributed to the council members. And what we did in talking with Manager Stockton, in doing that, he informed me that the council had expressed an interest in looking at approval of these municipal service districts this fall. So in looking at the council dates coming up, we saw October 6th as being a logical date for consideration, and basically worked backwards from there based on the requirements that the state has for notification of the public about the public hearing where the boundaries of the municipal service district or districts would be established. So what we're looking at in working back, our dates really begin August 8th of this year, where we would look at where the staff would complete development of a draft of the information to be mailed to property owners. That would be distributed to the council. Council would review those, provide any feedback to staff. Following that, the staff would complete development of a mailing list to all of the affected property owners. And then in early September, would mail public hearing notification. We also talked about other ways of getting that word out, including the town's website, manager's newsletter, things like that. The next key date comes in advertising the public hearing. So we had looked at we wanted that to run September 25th, so it means we need to get it in a few days earlier. So that would advertise the public hearing, and at that point, the council could hold that on October the 6th. And if adopted on that or a subsequent date, it would not become effective until July 1st of the following year, 2015. Certainly be glad to discuss any of that in more detail. But the key points are coming up with a draft of those materials, allowing the council to look at those and be sure that includes everything, all the information that you want in there for the people who are going to be looking at this, all the affected property owners, and then moving it forward from that point.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? All right, do I hear a motion to approve this schedule?
I make a motion, I move to proceed with the schedule for established a multi-service district as outlined in the memorandum above.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's the basic schedule as we're going to go forward with it. Okay, next thing we have town manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. First item, I wanted to advise council about the fact that we have advertised the Poseidon and Goosander Street Emergency Pumping Facility Project. We've advertised on February 25th, and we'll be holding a pre-construction conference on March 14th, and then we will take bids on the project on March 26th. Bids will then be presented to the council at the April 7th council meeting, and upon approval, we would hold a pre-construction meeting on April the 11th. And then the project should take about 30 days for completion, so hopefully we would have that completed before the tourist season, the heavy tourist season. So that's the plan right now. Also, I wanted to mention that on the Lillian Street access parking project, I was asking council about the matching funds for the camera grant that we're applying for, and the camera grant funds would be available on September the 30th, 2000 of this year. However, we probably would not be able to start construction until January of 2015 because of the engineering, the advertisement, and the bid award. We could begin construction with the town funds or apply for the Tourist Bureau grant for the matching amount. If we apply to the Tourist Bureau grant, the earliest we could start construction would be February 1st, 2015. So basically, if we apply for the Tourist Bureau grant, we're looking at about 1 month's difference in starting the project. And based on that, I would recommend to council that we also apply for the Tourist Bureau grant is the matching for the camera grant. So if everyone's in agreement with that, we would proceed in that manner.
All right, and basically, I'll add to what he just said is we would have a very good shot based on the history of the Tourist Bureau putting grants to this nature in front of us. The only caveat I would add to that is as the economy has declined and other grants have dried up, the Tourist Bureau does get a lot of requests for different things now that they didn't before. However, this kind of thing is kind of a priority and at the front of the list. So it's my recommendation that we not use town funds unless we have to and wait whatever time it takes to basically. So do we have a consensus that's the right way to go?
I agree.
I agree.
All right, Don?
Okay, all right.
I just have one question on the Lillian Street thing. Did you ever get in touch with the property owner about that?
We
Did
have
you
no,
hear-
we have notified, we notified the property owner of the plan that we have. I had not heard back from him.
Been back from him?
No, I have
Was
not.
it in writing?
Yes, I sent them a letter, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was, in writing. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. You have anything?
Don't have anything else for you tonight.
Okay. Town council. Jeff, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Craig?
No, sir.
No?
I just have your Recreation Committee update. The Recreation Committee met on the 4th of February, and they reviewed the accepted the changes to the Recreation Master Plan. that was approved on the consent agenda tonight, and they developed their work plan recommendations for the upcoming budget discussions. The committee reported that there was some vegetation that needed to be clipped along the shoulder of Kitty Hawk Road and along the bike path in the village, and I think Willie already took care of that. The committee also discussed some pedestrian safety issues with people walking along the beach road when they were going from the bathhouse to the crosswalk. And it turns out that there is a safe path to the crosswalk from the north to the south side of the parking lot, which was where the problem was. And it could be that there is some confusion on the part of the people in the north part of the parking lot that think that maybe that ramp that goes over to the south side only goes to the facility. But I think Willie's going to get some signs up that just says to the crosswalk, and that should, apart from people that just want to walk along the road, that should get rid of that problem. Committee also asked that bike racks for the public beach accesses be included in budget discussions. And I think they're talking about the public beach accesses that are at the end of the cross streets that intersect with the beach road. Willie said he's going to include them in his budget request for council consideration during the budget workshops. The committee also discussed a proposal from Paul Henriques, who lives in Kitty Hawk and owns Premier Contracting Incorporated, to pay for the rental and maintenance of porta potties at Wilkins Street beach access. The committee declined to support this proposal in a recommendation to council. Their discussion included concerns related to storm preparation and vandalism, but primarily they were most concerned about the potential for unwanted proliferation of porta potties along the beach road. They also asked to convey thanks to Mr. Henriques for his generous offer, but declined, and I think that was the right thing to do. I would also like to ask council if I could turn over the liaison with the Recreation Committee to Jeff. I find myself being out of town a little more often than usual, so I think, and Jeff has agreed, which I thank him for that. He was also on the Recreation Committee previously, so I think he would make a great new liaison for the Recreation Committee. So if I have your agreement, and we will make that effective immediately.
She's good at volunteering people. isn't she?
Yeah. That's the
Good
second
job.
person I volunteered tonight.
I noticed that your schedule has just kind of lightened right up. All right.
Yes, indeed.
You're still going to do the camera thing if you're here?
Yes, yes, if I'm here, I will.
All right, thank you. And I think they did the right thing on declining the porta potty thing.
I do too.
Yeah, that porta potty sitting there on the beachfront, all that would do is invite a lot of things we don't really want. And I don't have anything to add beyond that, so now we're ready for public comment, and looking out here, it looks to me like all the public left. But I'll call for it anyway. Let the record show, no one came forward because there was no one here. All right, now we're going to go in closed session, and I'll stipulate that we do not anticipate any action tonight, so that some of the folks can leave, and that'll only leave us. So do I hear a motion to go in closed session?
So moved.
Don't we have to do
You have to
that in
specify
a very
the
specific
statute
way?
numbers and the reasons you're
Yes.
going in.
In other words,
I move to go into closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 to approve closed session minutes from April 16th, 2012, and North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 for the town manager personnel review.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Craig, that's just a
Yes.
statute thing we have to go by.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now in closed session, folks. Thank you for your attendance. go home, and I hope it hadn't snowed on you, because you're going to be mad at me. I know that's the fact.